Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Motor Trade Radio podcast, brought to you in association with eBay Motors Group. It is Saturday the 11th of December and you're joined by myself, Philip Nothard.
And me, Curtis Hutchinson. This is episode 63, season 7 of Motor Trade Radio, bringing you all the chatter that matters. Once again, we've gathered together this week's big car retailing stories across the franchised and independent sectors for you to enjoy all in one place, on demand, on your podcast feed.
So a few shout outs this week, not as many as normal, but we've got this week, we have back on the midway section there, we've got another update from Steve Whitten on the ManheimUK moments, and we're heading over to, at the end, stay on for the end here, because this is one for a charity, so everybody's invited to this one, but an exclusive interview with a couple of guys from Mannheim over in Leeds, who are doing some work for a chosen charity, aren't they, Curtis, this week? Yeah,
it's a good story, that good interview, so do stay around for that. So shall I tell you what the headlines are this week, Phil?
Yeah, go on, go through them.
Okay, here we go. So headlines today are from AM Online, Motor Trader and Car Dealer. New car and van sales rise in November. 1/3 of car buyers prefer visiting local dealers to finding their next vehicle online. Used car prices may never return to pre-pandemic normal, says Cox Automotive. And Virtu Motors becomes the latest group to raise its full-year profit forecast.
So as you say there, Curtis, we've got the November figures in now. So, you know, they're getting towards the end of the year. And the headline there on AM Online is that a quarter of November's UK new car sales were plug-in electric. So again, I mean, you've mentioned it a couple of times now, that growth of EV market share that's starting to show. But the figures are up slightly on where they were last year. But it needs a bit of context, doesn't it?
It does indeed, yeah. So the November registrations totaled 115,706, and that was up 1.7% year on year, which, you know, it looks like a good positive story, but November last year, we were in lockdown, so we're not comparing like for like here. And if you look at the pre-pandemic 5-year average, which the SMMT has done, they've produced these figures, November was actually tracking at 31.3% on those averages, 31.3% down on those averages. So that gives a bit of context to how November actually panned out.
Yeah, as you say there, I mean, you know, we're down, you know, well, we're up 2,000 units down thereabouts, but like you say, you know, 26% down on the 2019 figures and even bigger on the running average. And I mean, as you know, I look at the European market as well, and again, not dissimilar across some of the European market in terms of that you can't rely on the year-on-year figures. I mean, France was down 3.2% year-on-year, so not significant, but down 30% there and thereabouts on the 2019 figures, whereas Germany, I mean, me and you were talking before we started to record, Curtis, that Germany, put this in context, you know, our November 2019 figure was 156,000 compared to the 115,000 we did just in this year for November. Germany, just short of 300,000 was their number in November 2019, and they didn't get to 200,000 this time, so they were actually down 31.7% year on year and 33% compared to 2019 figures. So the market's been hit very differently across the UK and the European partners.
Yeah, and certainly in terms of the UK and the November regs, the story is really about the success of electrics and plug-in hybrids. So plug-in cars represented 28% of the total market. So that works out at just under 22,000 battery electric vehicles registered and almost 11,000 plug-in hybrids. And that's a doubling of those combined registrations year on year. And you know what, over the course of this year, we've been charting, when that tipping point would be where electrics or plug-ins overtake diesel, and that's firmly established now. But what I found quite interesting was that the increase in registrations for November was very much on the back of retail. So fleet registrations were down 25% in the month, and retail was up 42%. So year to date, if you look at that split, retail accounts for 54% of the market and fleet 44% of the market. So the market is being powered by retail, and I would suggest that a lot of those plug-in hybrids and electric vehicles are going into retail because fleets are not replenishing cars at the moment.
No, not at all. And if you do head over to the AM Online report, they have got a link there that takes you over to some of the SMMT data behind all the headlines there that go into a little bit of detail in terms of by manufacturer and by share and things like that. And they do actually show where each of the manufacturers has performed, both for the November year-on-year figure and the year-to-date. And as you can imagine, there's some significant winners and some significant losers as well, depending on where they were last year on performance. So, you've got people like Jaguar that are 20% down year to date compared to the same period of 2020, whereas one or two others, you've got Audi that are actually up 9.86% on year to date versus same period last year. So again, many winners and losers depending on where they were last year during the challenges that the UK faced.
Yeah, and one other thing I spotted was that we expect diesel to be down year on year, and indeed it has been for many months now. But petrol was actually down 10%. So the growth in electric and plug-in hybrids is not just at the expense of diesel now. It is at the expense of petrol.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I was talking with someone earlier on. It's just getting more and more difficult now to plot what is happening because there's so many variables now, around supply and different manufacturer strategies, movement towards electric through that transition towards EV, where they were last year, and the challenges that some of them faced before the pandemic in terms of what was going on. So, a lot going on really. So I think you need to start to look at the detail a lot more than ever before.
And staying with AM Online, next headline is UK records best November new van sales in history. So a good positive story here for the van sector. But again, we are comparing this November against last November when we were in lockdown. But so new registrations finished the month 11.4% of the pre-pandemic average for the month. So that really is adding some context there because, we are now ahead of where we were in 2019. So LCV registrations in 2021 are now 22.8% up year on year. And the SMMT still forecasts that the LCV market will return to pre-2019 levels in 2022.
Yeah, there's a lot of demand out there at the minute for LCVs, and I think it's just a case of getting that product through to them. I mean, Ford's still dominating the best sellers both in November and the year to date there. So in November, the Ford Transit Custom and the Ford Transit both first and second position, and that's the same for the year to date, and then followed by Mercedes, again held position 3 for both November and the year to date. But year to date, VW Transporter is in fourth position, followed by the Ford Ranger. So again, very much top 10 dominated by Ford there, Curtis.
Yeah, and the sweet spot of the market remains that 2.5 to 3.5 ton class of vans, with sales there up 7.7%. And these are the vehicles that are being snapped up by delivery companies. So you can understand why there's such huge demand for those at the moment.
Definitely. And again, remaining here with AM Online, but a fantastic insight here from Judge Services. And the header is that 1/3 of car buyers prefer visiting local dealership. Now, what I like about this story is actually they have published the chart, which actually shows the comparing local deal. They are my local dealer, which is reasons for visiting in terms of source of inquiry compared to online, and a very dramatic chart there, Curtis, isn't it? Showing her where that shift has gone.
Yeah, you know what? I think Chris Whitty would be proud of this chart, wouldn't he?
He would.
It's definitely worth heading over to AM for this story, because the chart tells the story, and you might need to zoom in a bit to blow it up, but it definitely worth a look. And so Judge Service, and I worked with the guys on this story, so they did share the data with me in advance. What they've done is they've tracked this back to January 2019, and it's asking customers what prompted them to visit the dealership in the first place. So back in 2019, the main prompt was, it's my local dealer. Yeah. And that was well over 30% of respondents were saying that, whereas those who said, I saw the vehicle online, was only attracting just over 20%. And it then charts the various changes as we go in and out of lockdown. So and also the next most cited reasons for visiting the dealership were they'd visited the dealer's website first, and they'd previously had a good experience with that dealer. So from the graph, you can see how customers cited local dealers from January 2019 to July 2020, when finding a car online first became more dominant through the lockdowns. And that's especially so from November 2020 to July 2021, where online is very much in the lead, and that's clearly shown on the chart. But interestingly, since July 2021, dealers' visits have been prompted by locality. This is what customers are saying, rather than finding that car online first.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, looking at the chart there in up to the sort of December 21 there, that actually the finding the car, or the local dealer source, is actually now back to sort of August 2019 level, above that sort of 35% there, while the finding it through the website is now down back to sort of September, October levels of just above 20% there that we saw back in August, September of 2019. So again, a significant shift there, isn't it? That kind of, you can see where the lockdowns are, can't you? I mean, if you were to put the UK lockdown periods on top of that chart, not to make it any more complicated than what it already is, Curtis, in terms of the small print, but you would actually plot it that, it has been forced online due to the lockdown, but the minute the lockdown was eased, the dealers then came back out to the customers then came back out to the dealers, didn't they, straight away?
Yeah, and sort of returning to the headline, because this graph does go up to December 2021. So 1 in 3 customers, so that's 36%, said their visit was prompted by the dealer being local, compared to just 22% who ended up on forecourts as a result of finding a vehicle online. And this really does raise the suggestion that dealers, that customers actually want to see cars in the metal first, which is how it was pre-pandemic.
Yeah, and Neil Adley, who's the managing director of Judge Services, does sort of make that point in his statement, that saying that while the pandemic undoubtedly changed the way consumers were able to buy cars online, it's likely this was born out of necessity and is not necessarily the way they want to continue in a post-lockdown environment. So again, making that point there that, forcing them online out of necessity rather than necessarily demand. But we know that there is this now hybrid of online and physical that's taking place, isn't there?
Yeah, most definitely. You're listening to All the Chat That Matters on Motor Trade Radio, brought to you in association with eBay Motors Group. This is your weekly one-stop shop for all the biggest car retailing headlines from across the media, available on demand wherever you are on your podcast feed. Next up is our regular Men-Able moment from Steve Whitten. This week, Steve reflects on getting out and about to industry events once again, and he reflects on what a supportive industry we all work in.
Yeah, hi Phil, hi Curtis. Thanks for having me back for another Men-Able moments, and thanks for that one a couple of weeks ago where we did a Men-Able special. That was brilliant. Love that it timed very nicely with AM Live, and I was able to meet up with some fantastic contacts and colleagues from across the industry. And oh my God, wasn't it great to be back out speaking to people and able to see people in the flesh? I know if you've been running a busy business, you've probably been back to normal for some time. But for those of us that are sort of consultants and so on, it hasn't quite been like that. But anyway, in my travels recently, I've been reminded of something, and that is because I've been going out and about on the train quite a bit. There's an announcement, and that announcement on train stations is the one where they say, stand well back from the platform edge. The next train at platform 4 doesn't stop here. Now, what that indicates to me, and it just still makes me have a cold shiver when I hear it, and when I say it, actually, because it reminds me of the time where I very first thought, well, do you know what? 2 steps to the left and this will all be over very, very quickly. When I'd got to a place of despair, really, everything was on the floor. Couldn't have got much worse. And, well, unfortunately, it did get quite a bit worse than that several years later, most recently, of course. So what I wanted to talk about today was actually, and, going to AM Live and picking up again with some of those old contacts and new contacts and people that we know well, is that this is, I'm sorry, I'm going to use the word, it is a bloody amazing industry. And we have some fantastic people in it, and we are all really, really supportive of each other. And I am, for one, just very, very glad that although I had those dark times and those moments, and, if we get a chance to talk, I'll tell you a bit more about what they were about. But, there are 2 roads when you're like that you can choose. And one is the road of despair and one is the road of hope. Both of those roads get us to the same destination. But the road of despair could very easily get you there a lot quicker. I'm very glad that despite everything that happened, I chose the road of hope. And I like to think that part of that was because subconsciously, I knew that this industry would respond, and there are people who are very supportive. And we know it's tough. We know there are some, there's been some hard times, and there's some hard times to come, and there's lots of change and uncertainty and insecurity. But as an industry, we've got this, and we've got each other, and we've got each other's backs, more importantly. And, I'm totally buoyed up by the fact that I've had no end of messages from people who have said that, even these short ManheimUK moments really resonate and just make people sort of stop and think for a few minutes. So, as you know, Richard Sawyer has joined us as an ambassador, and he actually heard about us on this. So we clearly are resonating. And I also had a number of conversations with Chris Wiseman recently, who said he listens to this every time, listens to the podcast every week, of course, as does John O'Hanlon. So I'm going to give those guys a little bit of a shout out and say hi. Hope you're listening, and glad that, what we're doing and our messages resonate. On the ManheimUK front, we've recently made a big announcement that, of course, we are now supported from a new Platinum member in the form of Santander Consumer. Now, that is major for us. I mean, all of our Platinum members are major anyway. But for an organisation like that to get behind it is just amazing. So I, for one, am very, very glad I chose the road of hope. The rev counter analogy, I couldn't have been any higher. I was probably at a 9, maybe even a 10 nearly on the rev counter. But as I record this today, I've got to be honest and say probably a 3.5, because there's some other stuff still going on in the background. But, that's a much better place to be than being up at 8, 9 or 10. And the reason I'm there is because I know that, as an industry, we've got this. We look out for each other. We care for each other. And, despite some of the tough stuff that happens, we are all a great bunch of people. And, wow, what a slushy ManheimUK moments. Hope that was okay. And we will catch up again next time. Take it easy.
Well, Phil, as ever, some great thoughts and insight there from Steve, and it really does make you pause to reflect, and it's good to hear the sort of feedback he's getting within the industry. And he does talk about it being a very supportive industry. And as you and I have mentioned many times before, no one chooses to move outside of this industry, and it is in many ways like a club, because there's relationships that go back many years for people who have been in the industry.
Definitely, and it's great to hear some of the feedback as well, that people are listening to the ManheimUK moments on a regular basis and feeding back how much they enjoy them on the podcast. So, hopefully we'll get Steve back on in person, just a general chit chat between the three of us ahead of the new year. But I'm glad people are listening to that.
So next story is from Car Dealer, and it's used car prices may never return to a pre-pandemic normal, says Cox Automotive. So Phil, this is some research that you've put out this week. So do you want to talk us through what your thoughts are on pricing?
Yeah. I think expanding on some of the main content in the story, and obviously the focus has been very much in the headlines around the used values or used car prices not returning to pre-pandemic levels. And I think the point that we're trying to make with this is that people are thinking that we've seen a 25 to 30% increase in used car values, and we've had Darren on several times talking about the strength of the used car market and those values, and there's been conversations around the percentage of cost new, and some of them above cost new. And there's just this nervousness that's been set into the market that we've seen this significant increase. When will it crash? When will it reset itself next year when production starts to return? I think the point we're trying to make is there's no tsunami of stock on the horizon. Even when the manufacturers now start to work through some of the challenges around semiconductor or general supply shortages in product, it will take some time to get through the outstanding orders and get product back into the marketplace. So there isn't necessarily going to be an overflow of new vehicle stock creating an overflow of used stock coming into the wholesale sector. So there's no reason that we'll see this reset itself anytime soon. And the view is that if you think about trying to explain it, I could have done with one of them graphs that we had in the previous story, courtesy on screen. But if you think about a normal depreciation year, you would say 10, 12, 13% per annum. I know we've not seen that for some years, but we're now approaching a 30% increase. Well, that's a 40% swing from a normal depreciation year. Well, that's getting on for 3 to 4 years worth of normal depreciation just to get back to 0.0. So we don't see it going back down. I think the view is that a lot of the increases we've seen, yes, we might see it ease off slightly. Yes, cars do depreciate in time, but we're not going to see this crash, and we're not going to see. I think there's Vauxhall Zafira that everybody keeps referencing. I think
yes, that's the go-to.
It seems to be the go-to car. Of all the cars there are in the marketplace, everyone seems to go to that Vauxhall Zafira. That I think reports it's gone up between £4,000 and £7,000 in a 12-month period. Well, there's no reason that car will drop again back down to where it started. It may drop, but not necessarily back to that new point that it started. So I think the message is trying to get out there that this is all about margin. Whatever you're paying for that car, and you got your retail price, it's that margin in between that the dealers need to be thinking about, and the consumers. You know what? They'll buy what's available. We know that. So we're just feeling that there's no need to panic yet on these high prices. There might be some realignment, a little bit of stabilisation, but there's no tsunami of volume of stock coming back into the sector anytime soon. So I think that's the point we're trying to make on that, Curtis.
Yeah, and that does actually tie in with what we were saying about the November new car registrations, because the fleet sector is very suppressed at the moment and has been for a long time, and we're not seeing the fleet churns that we would see in normal years. And of course, those fleet churns generate the used vehicles. So without the big rental players in the market, certainly we're not seeing those cars. And corporate fleets, it's exactly the same. So we've got a long way to go, haven't we, before we start to see those new car churns.
And they will, vehicles will come back into the marketplace. They'll be different. We know that, and that's the other bit. I mean, we've just been talking there through the fuel type. You know, the vehicles that are going to be coming back into the market are not the vehicles that were left 2 years ago nearly. You know, there will be more EV products dominated by EV. So that changes the landscape of those vehicles coming into the sector. The fleet rental market do need vehicles. They need to defleet. You know, you can't continue with contract extensions and rental vehicles that are costing a lot of money in SMR costings because, you know, they're getting older and higher mileage. They will need replenishing at some point. But the manufacturers have got to get through their sold orders yet before they get excess stock. So it will start to realign itself, but it will take some time.
Yeah, and one figure that caught my eye in this particular story was November pricing, which it says is one of the largest month-on-month increases, because it was up 16.8% or £1,129 to an average of 8,553.
Yeah, and again, that's where you start to see the dynamics in the wholesale market, the type of vehicles entering the wholesale market, the prices of those vehicles entering the wholesale market. I mean, you know, one thing that, you know, we're talking about with a lot of people is, you know, we're talking about, me and you've just been talking there about used vehicle prices being up 25 to 30%. Well, that is now, you know, those are average prices of a used vehicle have gone up. You know, all right, let's go back to the Vauxhall Zafira. The Vauxhall Zafira that entered the wholesale sector at that age and mileage point 2 years ago is now £4,000 more for that same car. So the average prices going into the wholesale sector, even if they're the same profile, are more higher value vehicles. And you've got higher value vehicles coming into the market. And we know that retailers are retailing older and higher mileage cars than they would have done previously. So those vehicles are not coming to the wholesale sector because they're having to retail them because of the shortage of stock. So there's a lot of dynamics at play within some of the KPI indicators that you see.
And final story this week, before we go into our interview, is from Motor Trader, and the headline is Virtu Motors raises profit forecast for year to £70 million. So this follows hot on the heels of last week's story about Pendragon, because we reported last week that customer demand and orders at Pendragon were actually higher than last year, and led them to raise their profit forecast by, well, up from 70 million to 80 million. So that was up 10 million. So with Virtu, you know, it's similar story. So this is for the year ending February, and they've raised their profit forecast from £5 million by £5 million to a total of 70 million. And again, this is on the strength of the markets that they've seen in October and November on both new and used. But it's not just the strength of the market; it's the margins that are being retained now.
It is, yeah, and you can probably sum it up in the tweet that you said that Robert had put out early morning on it. It kind of sums it all up in one go, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it was lovely. As I was putting headlines together this morning, Robert tweeted, "Another morning, another upgrade." Funny old year.
I mean, you know, he's had a busy time, and we know that, as many have, and you know, there is an end comment in the piece there on Motor Trader that does say that looking ahead, it said that the board remained cautious on the outlook with regards to potential further disruption from COVID-19. And we know that even this week, you know, there's been additional Plan Bs. Will we get a Plan C? Don't know. But there is a lot going on. But I think, you know, in fairness to these guys, I mean, they've really demonstrated themselves, haven't they, all the way through the pandemic to be able to react and change and still maximise. You know, I mean, we would not have foreseen, would we, Curtis, if we're honest, some of the profit results coming out that we've read through the podcast recently, would we, in terms of how well some of these operators have been performing through the challenges they've faced through supply of vehicles?
Yeah, not at all. And it's been across the board. And I think most of the stories we've referenced have mentioned these enhanced margins that dealers are now seeing.
Exactly, and a little bit of a thing here with Virtu as well, that if you haven't seen it this week, and a little nod to Robert and his team there that this is in AM Online, the story that Bristol Street Motors becomes founding partner of Manchester's new Co-op Alive Arena. Now that came as news to me because I didn't know there was going to be a new Co-op Alive Arena. So it even came news that Bristol Street have joined with to do it, but this is a new venue in Manchester that Bristol Street is involved with.
Yeah, and it looks like a really impressive live venue, and what a great facility to be associated with. So a good piece of branding there.
You'll have to get yourself up north at some point there, Curtis, to attend. There's a 4,000 capacity. Be all right. Don't know what that'll be with masks on at the minute and where they've got all passports to get in at the minute, but.
Don't even go there, Phil, because I think the live arena is 4,000, but the total capacity is 23,500. So goodness knows which rules will apply.
No, but I mean, again, just to sort of end on the note there with Virtu. I mean, great results, great performance. Through all the challenges, and it's I think to maximise that profit per unit and around what's been happening in the new and used car market has been significant.
Next on today's podcast, we're delighted to be joined by Ben Muster and Stephen Cooper from Mannheim, Leeds, who are here to talk about a special charity auction for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which they're organising for this coming Monday, 13th of December. So welcome to the show, Stephen and Ben.
Hello.
Hi guys, welcome on the podcast. I know you do listen on a regular basis as I try and share everything you guys do on the social channels. So yeah, again, welcome to the show. So well, let's start by letting you talk us through what prompted the charity auction and how the build-up has been going. If we go to yourself first on that one, Ben.
Yeah, no worries. So what we've been doing is we've been reaching out to us customers, both buyers and vendors, and we've been asking them to either donate cash to our Just Giving page or gift us a vehicle that we'll be selling through the auction lane on the Monday the 13th. And what we've been doing with the gifting of vehicles, but there's been no extra charge. Mannheim's footed the transportation costs. There's no selling fees. There's even no buyer's fees for the vehicle when it goes under the hammer on Monday night, which means every vehicle sold for that amount is exactly what's going to the charity.
Fantastic. I mean, that's a great thing to do for both, the charity, and there's an opportunity for the buyers to get some. And probably not cheap cars if everybody's bidding for charity, though.
We just like to think that if there's no buyer's fee, it might just push that bid that a little bit extra further on for the charity itself. Everything gained is exactly what's going to the charity,
And Stephen, a question for you. What prompted you to choose the Make-A-Wish Foundation? And can you tell us a little more about what they actually do?
Yeah, so we as a business have decided to support the Make-A-Wish Foundation as Cox Motive. We've committed to support this charity over the next 2 years. The spirit of Cox runs sort of whole organisation, and that is why we're so proud to support a charity that aims to put a smile back on the faces of, it's critically ill children, let's face it, So the Make-A-Wish Foundation grants the wishes, no matter how unique, of poorly children across the globe. Their belief is that the worry and disruptive reality of the treatment and the financial worries and isolation that comes with a diagnosis should be replaced with the simple pleasures of childhood. And wishes can vary in size and cost and are truly unique to the imagination of each child. However, the average cost of one wish, believe it or not, is £2,500.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great charity, and I do wish you well on the sale. Have you had any feedback from them at all?
Yeah, we've had some great feedback. They're going to come down on the sale itself and watch and support. We're going to have some photographs taken. So we're going to have a great event. We've had some great support from our vendors and buyers. There'll be a good turnout, and I'm excited to meet the Make-A-Wish team members, and hopefully we'll get to that figure we want to try and achieve on the night.
And with this, then, is it? I think come back to you here, Ben. But how much are you hoping to raise? I mean, obviously obvious answer is as much as possible. But I mean, how is it going so far, and what's your target, and how much have you raised so far in terms of donations ahead of the charity auction?
Yeah, we've received so far to date 30 vehicles. Okay, so they're varying from a value of £250 up to £1,500. So there's been some very generous donations there in vehicles. We've also received just over £7,500 in cash donations on our Just Giving page. Okay, so we're on target to achieve £30,000. So big couple of next days, 48, 72 hours, we're going to push that to try and exceed that. We've also got some memorabilia to offer on the night of the auction as well. Once we've sold and offered the vehicles in question, we have some memorabilia, some Muhammad Ali memorabilia and Lewis Hamilton memorabilia as well. And we've also been gifted by one of our contractors, which is 4 VIP tickets at Wembley football match to a football game of their choice as well. So that's up for auction. So I would like to think, that'll raise circa £1,000, because that is a great price to bid on.
And are these all on the night then? Is this is all happening on the night of the sale when it goes ahead?
Yeah. So we have our general sale at 5 o'clock. And then about 5:45, 6 o'clock, we'll be then going into our charity auction. So as I say, we've got 30 cars as we're speaking now. We'll be offering those 30 cars, and then after those cars, we'll be offering the 4 VIP tickets at Wembley. Again, to be a choice of whoever is successful winning that bid. And we've got 2 bits of memorabilia from Lewis Hamilton and Muhammad Ali. So they will be done on the night, and then we'll have our count up and see where we are with our Just Giving page, and hopefully we'll achieve our target of £30,000, which I'm confident we will achieve.
And I'll ask the question anyway. I'm pretty sure I know what the answer will be, but can you shed any light on what the memorabilia will be, the Muhammad Ali and Lewis Hamilton memorabilia, or will that be a surprise on the night?
Yeah, it's going to be a surprise. We're going to have photographs taken, but they'll be on the website, and you'll see that on Monday night itself.
So it's Lewis Hamilton, not Verstappen on this one, Curtis.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's going to be a tight fight to the final there, though, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you never know after this weekend.
Exactly.
So, Ben, how can listeners get involved in the auction on the day?
So obviously the customers can either buy a vehicle that we're going to be offering of the 30 vehicles, and that's just simply getting on our simulcast website and just bidding accordingly. And again, a reminder, there is no buyer's fees there. So bearing in mind, no buyer's fees, so there'll be a saving there. They can actually even turn up on the night as well, because we do offer a physical offering here at Mannheim Leeds on a Monday and a Thursday night. But that is only open to trade account holders only. I've got to stipulate that. Unfortunately, we can't have general public coming into the auctions. But we are back physical at Mannheim Leeds on a Monday and a Thursday night, and that's the reason why we've chosen the night option on Monday for this auction. They can also get involved on the Just Giving page, which we'll be sharing the link on this post. And also, if they want to get in touch with me personally, my mobile number is 07920 593310.
And Curtis, so you've got all those details. Sounds like you might want a bit of memorabilia of Hamilton or something.
Well, yeah, absolutely, yes. Yeah,
or is it the football tickets you're going for?
No, it's the memorabilia.
No, I mean, it's great. I mean, and just finally, I mean, in terms of who's involved, and I think either Ben or yourself, Stephen, with this, but who have we got? Do you want to give a shout out to some of the companies who have already pledged their support? Because you were saying that you've got quite a bit of support so far in terms of cars and donations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got to say, it's a broad spectrum. We've got our contractors that will do our security, our cleaning, etc., etc. They've got involved. Then we've got the little independent dealers. That's just a one man independent dealer on his own pitch. And then we've even got
the big car supermarkets and the motor groups that's got involved. So I'll quickly just run through. There's definitely names that people will recognise. So we've got Enterprise Holdings, Arnold Clark, Marshall Motor Group, Assured Group, Trade Centre Essex. We've also got Santander, RCI Financial Services, OSJ, Quick Roads Garages. We've got Hendage Cars, DLS, CTH, Car Shop and Sitner, FES. We've also got Corkills, VW and Hyundai, DM Keith. We've got Copman Fort York. We've got Big Motoring World. We've got Ringways, Perry's, Peter Ambrose Peugeot Castleford, Clackeaton, G5, Ditter Trading, Maudsley Garage, Go Superbike, M Cars North East, Pullman's VW Skoda. We've got Maxwell's Ford. We've got Available Car. We've got Affordable Cars of Driffield. We've got Harrods. We've got Clydebrook Volvo. We've got SG Petch. We've got Trenton Peugeot. And we've also got a company called Regis.
So it's building then, isn't it? And there's still time to go.
Yeah, and I must say what's more impressive about this as well, there's some names there Ben just shouted out, Curtis, that, there's some customers there and who actually don't even deal with Mannheim as a supplier, but obviously Ben's known them from previous relationships, and they've jumped on the bandwagon and support this fantastic event because they know how important it is putting back into this. So it's the feedback we've had and the response we've had, honestly, we are so grateful for this. And as I say, we're very excited for the sale to happen on that Monday, the 13th of December at 5 o'clock. And, you've still got time to support, listeners. If you want to support, please follow that link there and donate away and help us achieve our £30,000 target.
Yeah, I mean, you've got some great names there, guys, on board. So, yeah, well done on getting them.
It's just the motor trade coming together. You know that the motor trades had a good year in certain areas, and just reaching out to people and people just coming together for such a worthy cause. It's Christmas time coming up, and we'll all be holding his children near at Christmas time, as I will be, and to help a child that's got a critical illness, I don't think there's any better time, really, to be fair.
No, couldn't be said any better. I think, this is all about the charity and all about those involved with the charity. And great work, guys, to you and anybody else that is involved with this. And as you say, big shout out to all those that have donated and, put their hand in the pocket or donated a car. And I'm sure that, with still time to go before the sale, there'll be a lot more ahead of it. And fingers crossed, let's hope we break that £30,000 target that you've set yourself. So it just remains me to say, Curtis and I appreciate you coming on and just spending 10 minutes just to share what's happening and why it's happening on the podcast. It's really appreciated. And as you say there, just in case you didn't catch Stephen or Ben, it's Monday the 13th of December at 5 p.m. And if you do need any more details, then Ben's always available. Just give him a quick call on 07920 593310. That's 07920 593310. So again, thanks for coming on the show today. Really appreciate it, guys, and please do stay safe and well, and we will be wishing you the best for Monday evening.
Thanks for having us, guys. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Yeah, many thanks, Ben and Stephen. Great to have you on the podcast, and good luck with the sale. Hope it all goes well on the day. That's all for now. You've been listening to the weekly Motor Trade Radio podcast brought to you in association with eBay Motors Group. Many thanks for joining us for all the chatter that matters. We're back again next week. Until then, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.